Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mysteries and Oddities video. Alright, let's do another entry here based on one of your suggestions. This one is pretty interesting because it has to do with a notion that I have seen placed into several prominent movies. I just never really paid much attention outside of it, like let's say in the real world. But if this was truly something that was applied back during World War II, or at least attempted back in the World War II, it makes it so fascinating, the idea of art imitating life and then life imitating art. So it has to do with the notion of a super secret set of high-tech weapons that apparently the Nazis were trying to make sometime back during World War II. Unsuccessful, of course, but the speculation remains rampant as to what these things could have been and how they would have changed so many things had they actually gone through. In this case, it has to do with one weapon that in German is known as the Die Glocke, but in English it literally means the bell, and you're looking at a picture of it here. So very, very fascinating, interesting information to share here with regards to this mystery. So what was this, the bell, whatever it was that the Nazis had? Up front, though, I'll mention this: information, official information on it is so scarce, and this is because, of course, not only with the info on the Nazis being already rare as is from World War II as far as their research and development, especially into, let's say, highly classified stuff, but when you're dealing with items like this, where there's no evidence of it ever really existing other than speculation, people stating that they've seen it or had seen it or knew people that had seen it, and then some roundabout circumstantial evidence thereafter, everything is pretty much like shooting in the dark. Like there's no 100%, not even close, real proof of this thing existing. All there remains is, again, just pure speculation as to what it is. But that's the fun side. It's the idea of being able to take a look at this, try to peel that curtain back, and then see what evidence points to it actually existing. So this thing was apparently a machine of some sort that was being developed back during World War II, back during the height of the Nazi Empire. If you see movies like, for example, Hellboy, there was that prominent opening scene having to do with that machine that the Nazis were building, trying to open a portal. Or if you've seen the more recent Captain America movies where the Red Skull was trying to utilize, in this case, the cube to try to create machines that would change the war. Same concept, but in this case, it was supposedly a real life thing. Remember I was mentioning earlier about life imitating art and so forth. This thing, as far as what it consisted of, still remains very, very mysterious. It was a bell, according to the people that purportedly have seen it or have seen evidence associated with it. It's a bell that's about 12 to 15 feet high and about 9 feet wide. And then within it, there's supposed to be two counter-rotating cylinders of some sort. So I guess when this thing turns on, then you'll know it, because either this thing will visibly look at like it's counter-rotating, or at least on the inside, it'll definitely do that and create some kind of hum. That's what the other thing associated with it too. It was supposed to be making some kind of large metal, like metallic hum too. And according to the materials that people state again that they've seen, inside it was filled with something considered a mercury-like substance, violet in color, code named 0525, and it was stored in some kind of large, thin thermos flask, probably about a meter high of sorts, that in of itself was contained in lead. Now what this code name and metallic liquid was, it's been surmised that it's some form or variation of mercury of some sort. How that mercury does the things that it's supposed to do within the machine, who knows? But it was supposed to have been pretty deadly because, again, according to the info tied to this, no less than 7 scientists, unnamed scientists, no one knows who they were, died during various experiments, both on plants and then also on animals. No known indication as to whether it actually was tested on humans as well, but considering, of course, the horror stories that have been tied to the Nazis, then one can surmise that that could easily go into that avenue too. One other side effect of this thing when it was quote unquote turned on was that it was supposed to emanate some very, very strong radiation. So much so that it may have led to those deaths of the scientists, or it may never have been a successful project because of its high radiation. No matter what, even if there is something that's being tested as a weapon, you can't really have that high radiation being tested and expect, I guess, people to do their job associated with it. It just won't work out. Now, as far as to what this thing was supposed to do, that's where things go into an even more stranger circumstance, because that stuff is like almost science fiction world. There's the idea that it's supposed to have been some kind of testing of anti-gravity propulsion. Think of it like straight out of a UFO, which, if truly successful, like would have changed the war, because then you would have had machines that would have been able to have been flown who knows at what speeds, and of course no limits now to gravity, and could fly to many, many different parts of the world. There's the other idea that it was supposed to be some kind of weapon of some sort, like it was something that was supposed to create, I don't know, some scenario more along the human body than anything else. I was reading that it was supposed to do something where it like creates a dastardly side effect when it's aimed at the right person. I've heard of those weapons, those so-called black code weapons, the ones that they don't have anything visible shooting out, but they still create some kind of bad effect on humans. So who knows if this was it. And then finally there was the idea that it was supposed to manipulate space-time itself. It was able to travel, bend space, go from point A to point B instantaneously, and if you extend it even further, go into some interdimensional travel as well. So this is of course way out there. Like this is the science fiction type stuff. Remember, this was at a time when cars just, were barely past their early combustion stage, and yet we're talking about something that has extreme interdimensional time travel. So crazy, crazy stuff. Oh yeah, that's another thing, by the way, the time traveling part. If you take it to another level, not necessarily, I guess, like as direct combat then for World War II, but it was also supposed to be something that would solve the riddle of traveling in time, and being able to give the Nazis a huge advantage traveling to areas back in time where they knew that special events were going to happen that would have normally tilted the war to the favor of the Allies. Instead, they could be there popping up and then making sure that that circumstance is stopped. So again, all this is just rampant speculation, nothing really in terms of any proof whatsoever, but I leave it out there for you to try to decide how much of this is true, how much of this is not. So as far as the circumstantial evidence that I was mentioning earlier, there's the so-called bell hinge, which you're looking at a picture of here. It's been surmised that this location may have actually served as a test rig for this device because of the way it looks, because of how old, I guess, it's been dated, the metal framework surrounding it, the area that it's located at. If the idea of this quote-unquote the bell truly existed, then it might have actually been somewhere here that it was tested out. But again, this is just another form of speculation, because others have stated that this is more on the lines of an industrial cooling tower that just happens to look like something else otherworldly. And when you add the conjecture, like people thinking, well, it must look weird, so it must be tied to this notion of the bell, then you can see how things kind of like get mixed up there. But also there's another theory that the bell never could have worked, because if it truly was based on time travel, have you ever heard of that notion of the grandfather paradox? It's the idea that you can't really go back in time to change something, a very particular thing, because that thing has to exist in order for you to be able to go back in time and change it. So the grandfather paradox was, you can't kill your grandfather because your grandfather first has to live for you to be able to go and get the idea to go back in time to try to kill him. So time apparently will always have some way of being liquid, and it's kind of cool, kind of crazy and kooky to think about at the same time. But if that was the notion, then this thing, even if built and even if successfully built, it would never have worked, because time would always make sure that the events that occurred in the past would occur, because that led to the creation of this Nazi bell. So, but there's that notion too. But so much so is with regards to this being in a lot of popular culture type items, that this thing, this Glocke, has been mentioned in several books. There's a book called Black Order, another one called The Shadow Project. There's another one called The Atlantis Gene, and so forth. It's been featured in songs as well. There's even been Call of Duty, the video game. There's an appearance of it there, again playing a little bit of a nod towards its supposed existence. Doctor Who fans have also had an encounter with it in the novel The Crawling Terror. It's made its association there. So you can see that this thing, whatever it was, even if it never truly existed, it's definitely taken on a life of its own when it comes to how people think of it. And it seems pretty much larger than life. Imagine that, this machine being able to either solve anti-gravity problems, or then be able to travel back in time, or being able to solve traveling instantaneously from point A to point B. If there was something like this, I mean, this would have absolutely changed the world. Nothing like it ever since its purported existence would have had such an impact as this thing. But that's it. That's all the information associated with this mystery, the bell. So please post those comments below if you happen to have any more info tied to this. That would be really, really good to hear. If there's another thing that this purported mystery was supposed to do that would have given the Nazis an edge, but I hadn't mentioned it, please post those comments too. It'd be great to share with everyone here. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.